Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy, where things go awry and we have no idea what's going on and we don't care. The show must go on.
It does.
Happy to have Josh Chernikoff in the Wolff Den today, on the Wolff Den. I'm in the Wolff Den. You're on the Wolff Den.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. How's everything going?
Yeah, man, it's good. Thanks for having me. I mean, you and I, we just behind closed doors. It's live TV for the last 11 minutes. We're trying to figure out why you couldn't hear me. We were doing the I can hear you, but you can't hear me, and we figured it out. That's what entrepreneurs do. So what the hell?
And it turned out it was on my end when we thought it was on your end, but no blame.
Yeah. No blame.
We're here. For the people in the audience who don't know who you are, give a quick intro and let's get into it.
Yeah, let's see here. I got a chance to watch some of your previous shows, tons of fun, and I knew this question was coming, and I was like, how can I encapsulate this, who I am, what I've done? Basically, my background is in broadcast journalism. I have a master's from Northwestern in broadcast journalism. Got out of school, went and did a couple years of on-air TV at an ABC affiliate in Harrisonburg, Virginia, near James Madison. Did a kind of some work at a museum because I wanted to get out of that business, but I then wanted to come back. Worked for the Washington Redskins. That's what they were called at that time. I knew it was toxic, didn't know how toxic it was. And it was wearing on me. So I decided to start a business and started, my first business was a tutoring company. And the only way I knew how to grow that thing was to talk to my people in the media. And so I pitched a story that got on NBC4 locally. And when Jim and Doreen talk about your company, it takes off hockey stick wise. The tutoring company took off. As that thing is running, a small boutique tutoring company, I started an after-school enrichment aftercare company, and grew both of those, sold both of those, actually had a letter of intent to be acquired in the aftercare company by a major aftercare player. Pandemic hits, they rescind that offer. It all worked out just fine. Still sold the company to my then COO, who's now my CEO. And I'm now somehow stumbled into my third business, which is called Cascade. And what we're doing is working with entrepreneurs, mainly in the education space, helping generate leads for them, creating content around them, and then also, helping them organizationally grow their businesses. So
I think you did a good job. We're going to get into all of that, but we love pop culture and sports and entertainment on the Wolff Den.
Right.
So you're a Big Ten guy. What do you make of the Juwan Howard situation?
So I'm not so much of a Big Ten guy because I can tell you that when I went to Northwestern, it was 1 year.
Okay.
Although I was kind of emerging out of my heavy college drinking days, I still, spent some time hanging out at Northwestern, but I was mainly focused on my studies there.
All right. Well, as a leader and an entrepreneur, what do you make of that Howard situation? Was 5 games enough? Just a quick, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, but I do know and remember Juwan because he was a Bullet. He was a Washington Bullet. So he's got a space in my heart. I think, honestly, that was a situation that there was no win for anybody, but Juwan seems to have done the right thing. University of Michigan seems to have done the right thing. And so I think, the best is being made out of a probably a very heated conversation.
Yeah, heated is definitely heated. I posted the other day about the girl, the skater who was able to compete, and that just in general, there's not enough deterrent for bad behavior.
Right.
The people arguing say, look, 5 games, it's just a regular season. It's not. It's a slap on the wrist. He's done it before. It's not really going to stop a coach from doing that again. I think in general, we need to deter bad behavior. That goes across the board.
Yeah.
Because people they're going to get away with what you allow them to get away with. And there's so much money involved in a lot of things that even think about the baseball. I mean, these people were willing to sit out a year to do steroids because they were getting a $30 million contract.
That's a lot of money.
All right,
Yeah. I mean, Juwan seemed to be genuinely apologetic. And I think he at least wrote the right things. There's no excuse for what he did. we were having a discussion with my family. I went to a wedding. I live in a place called San Miguel de Allende in the middle of Mexico. I went to a wedding in Cabo over the weekend. We were having a similar discussion, but more about people on airplanes and wearing masks. And whether you want to wear a mask, you don't want to wear a mask, the fact of the matter is that those are the rules.
You want to fly, wear a mask. It's not
Wear a
that
mask,
hard.
right.
The
And
rule.
the only way to deter people from doing that is to not let them fly after
Right.
they do something like that. Turning the plane around screws over the people who are on the plane, but don't let them fly.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to be wearing a mask. I had to wear one basically all Sunday, but I wanted to fly and get home.
Yeah. So I'll disagree with you on the Howard thing, and I think the other coach, Garb, I don't know. They were both trying to make excuses as to what happened instead of kind of apologizing, which to me it didn't sit well. But I get that. I get what you're saying. And look, so Pete Rose, right? No one ever gambled on baseball again, or at least got caught.
Right.
There's got to be somewhere in between that, between the non-punishment of the drugs and illegal substances and banning someone for life. Talk about corporal punishment. I don't think we should do that, but you rob a bank, you rob a store, you're in jail for life. Not a lot of people are going to start robbing stores. So you got to try and figure out what's going to stop someone from doing that. I think as leaders also, we're putting an example as leaders, the people who are, whether you have one person under you or 5,000 people under, or whether you're coaching the kids or not, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a CEO, the stuff that you do is almost going to be like, all right, well, this guy did that. I should be able to do that.
Yeah. Well,
it's a tough argument.
As a good leader, at the end of the day, it all falls on you. You got to be able to step up and take that. What I saw from Juwan was literally the last two words. I think it said no excuses.
Yeah.
And as long as he is saying there's no excuses and then turning back to his guys and saying that was wrong and I'm paying the price for it. My daughter and I, when we left Cabo, my wife went back to DC, and my daughter and I came back here. So we've been watching rewatching Ted Lasso together. Have you watched it?
I have to watch it. My wife watches shows like crazy. I'm a movie guy because if I don't watch and pay attention, but it's on my list because I love Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah,
and I hear great things about it.
Well, I know what you're saying on if you don't watch, because I was out, 15 minutes into Game of Thrones. First of all, I don't like flying dragons, and I know probably people will comment on that, but there was just too many characters, and I fall asleep, and there's 10 more characters. But Ted Lasso, talk about leadership, humility, all those things.
A lot of good lessons I hear. People are talking about a lot of good lessons in it, but funny stuff. Full disclosure, I haven't seen 3 minutes of Game of Thrones, so I wouldn't even know.
Okay, good.
Never even gave it a shot. It's just not my thing. I also, at the time, maybe didn't have HBO. We're just finishing up Ozark, which is blowing my mind. Like, you watch it?
I got far, but then I was just talking about this with my cousins over the weekend. Like, it got a little too dark for me, and I got out.
It's dark. What I don't understand, and it's not a spoiler thing, in what world does a little town like this have so many people dead and missing? And it's just like, all right, someone else is missing. No big deal. Like, I get it. We're not in the rush, the drug cartels of Mexico.
Right.
It's just, to me, that's crazy. Other thing I wanted to ask, since you mentioned it, I like the Washington football team as a name. I thought they should have stuck with it. I think there's a lot of runway for that. I don't know, people love to complain. Whatever name they came up with, no one was going to like.
Yeah.
What do you think they should have? Obviously, you got to get rid of Redskins. I thought the Washington football team is unique. Hey, the Dolphins are playing the football team.
Yeah. Well, first of all, having grown up a Redskins fan and worked inside Redskins Park, nothing's going to change until the ownership changes. If Dan Snyder really loves the team, he'll sell the team or he'll be pushed out. If the NFL really loves, the team. Commanders to me is not a good name. If you've watched Handmaid's Tale.
About commies, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't go commies, but Handmaid's Tale, the Commanders and the people who basically run, all the bad stuff in Handmaid's Tale, they're called Commanders. So that doesn't go well. But it doesn't. You can't cheer to it. You can't say let's go Nats or let's go Caps or,
I say, let's go commies. You spend tons. I mean, this is just not even, it goes beyond sports because these companies, organizations, billion-dollar organization, are spending a ton of money to try and
Yeah.
come up with the name of a team or a stadium or, I mean, they're paying people, right? Like, it's almost like a commercial. Like, how does this happen?
And
How
they
does
made a
that happen?
commercial out of it, in classic, Redskins, they could have done it quietly and quickly, but they made it a big production, which opens you up.
Yeah,
I like Washington football team. I liked Red Wolves. I liked Red Tails. I think the cool thing about Washington football team is it was just Washington, and it was because where I grew up and lived for 42 years, we are, the capital of the country. DC would have been cool. They tried to do DCFC, but I guess Detroit has an actual soccer team, so it's Detroit City or something like that.
yeah,
But DC would have been cool.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. The worst name in the history of sports is the Wizards anyway, so it's not like it could be worse than that.
The Wiz, the
Like
Wiz.
who?
Nobody beats the Wiz.
Yeah, that was better.
Well, let's talk education because that's really what got you where you're at. It's such a huge industry, right? I mean, everyone has, not everyone, but there's millions and millions of people who have kids who are anywhere from when they start to high school and trying to figure out a way to enhance their experience during the day, right? And then you have some stuff after the day, right? Because there's that point in time where the parents either can't get them, they need
Yeah.
stuff, or there's extracurricular stuff. So how did that come to you? How did your interest in it? I don't think you had kids at the time, right?
Mm-mm. I was a bad student.
Yeah, me too.
And I had a lot of friggin' tutors, and I waited all day long to get to after school to do sports or, I was mainly into sports. I wasn't doing like art or dance
What'd
or
you
things
play?
like that. Soccer, a lot of soccer. My Jewish mom was gonna let me play football, and I couldn't swing a bat that well. Played golf, but mainly soccer. Um, and so, just when I started my tutoring company, all I knew was um, how to find good tutors that would engage the kids and talk to them about, hey, I've been in the situation of the student. You're a pretty smart person, so maybe you haven't been in our shoes. We don't want tutoring, but we need it. We, as the kids. So let's find great ways to match you up with students that you want to be around, and then let's find different ways of working with them. Many of our students were in public schools, so we went outside of the curriculum to try and find different ways to connect the dots for them. If the kids need help with reading, we didn't care what they were reading. If they needed help with math, we didn't care what they were counting. And I just found great tutors. I had this one tutor, his name is Adrian Gordon, super cool guy, was a professional cricket player out of the UK. Cool dreads, like loved math. And he worked as a consultant in DC. And I would hook him up with kids who needed help with math and love sports. And Adrian walks in, a super cool guy, and he's working on math with them. So, my job was to find great tutors, know the families, and make those matches. And all of that was based on just being a really bad student.
I was a terrible student. I failed a class in high school and had my parents punished me, and I had to sit out the rest of the basketball season.
Yeah.
You think about that. I had to sit out the rest of my playing, which killed me because I failed the class, which in the grand scheme of things is meaningless, right? It's just the idea about it. I mean, that's a punishment. I didn't fail another class, I'll tell you that.
That's a no-fly list right there, man.
Yeah,
That's
but
consequences. You remember it.
yeah, and that was huge for me. I got punished all the time when I was a kid. Nothing like it was like I left the garage door open, and there you go. No sleepover that weekend with your friends.
My daughter, for some reason, she's 7 years old, and she has always loved carrying shit to school.
Yeah,
I mean, like, just loves bringing stuff to school. Great student, amazing kid, exactly who my wife and I, wanted as a kid. She eats, she travels, like, she doesn't give a shit about anything. She loves to bring stuff to school. And she and I had like a great morning, and we're walking out, and she had this little like purse with her, like this big, and I was like, "What's in there?" And she like smiles at me, and I open it up, and it's like all these little dolls, and I'm like, "You know, you're not supposed to bring this stuff. So now I need to take this thing until the end of the week." You know, and so I don't know why we do the things we do as kids. Trust me, I can remember some of the instances that involve police or drinking or
Yeah.
damaged cars, so her bringing a doll or two to school is the least of my concerns, of course.
But I got punished a lot. I did a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to do as an adult. I feel like my parents did a really good job of raising me to be a good
Yeah.
person, but still doing a lot of that stuff doesn't make you a bad person. So it's like it's interest the dynamics of punishment. Should I punish? Shouldn't I? What should we do? What are we teaching? I don't. It's I'm not a parent, so I don't know. But I know what
Yeah.
I went through. So if I had to, it's tough. It's tough to figure out what's going to work, and maybe that's just who they are. And I don't know. Obviously, if they can't do it, they can't do it, right? If it's something you can't bring to school, they have to learn. Hey, look, you can't have. And there's such a huge dynamic with cell phones now, right?
Yeah.
And iPads that we didn't have to deal with.
Yeah.
And even you're required to have a laptop. I didn't have a
Sure.
computer until I was almost 30 years old in my house. Literally,
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't have my own computer.
My parents didn't. First of all, I'm the youngest I have two older sisters. One of them is 6 years older, absolutely brilliant. The next one is 4 years older, equally as brilliant. One went to Amherst, one went to Harvard. They literally didn't get a B, and in high school. And I honestly only strived for B's, because I got occasional C, I got occasional A. My thing was just making friends. It carried me through high school. It carried me through college. Like if I was friends with the teachers, they weren't going to fail me. And that worked out pretty well. I got through college in 4 years. My parents, I can only remember one time that they truly punished me, and I deserved it. But other times they just basically let me live in my own shit. The car that I crashed, or
Yeah.
the hangover that I brought on, as we got to college, I think it's one of my favorite lines from The Hangover where he says, "We tend to do stupid shit when we're drunk." You can basically point many of those instances back to, that last shot at the bar. But I just feel like at this point, and maybe I'll say this, maybe I'll change my mind when I'm 52 or 62, but I feel like I'm just kind of understanding life a little better right now.
Yeah, it's part about what is great about life is to figure it out for yourself. And there's a scene in the Ozark last night, and he said, you don't go to college for education per se. You go to learn about life and how to deal with a lot of different things. And that gets to the topic I want to address now is curriculum. It's like it hasn't changed in X amount of years. They're still teaching the same things that's meaningless to anyone. Even in college, when you go to college, it's like I'm taking all these classes that really aren't going to help unless you're getting an MBA. If I was to start a college tomorrow, I would have only classes that are going to help whatever you're kind of striving to do. There could be general stuff, but
Right.
I think we waste so much time trying to teach people certain things. And I'm a street smart kind of guy, not a book smart. So it's probably why I feel this way a little bit
Right.
more. But there is value to being able to consume something and talk about it intelligently and also test well on it. So there is a strategy towards that. But I think the material that we're doing is I don't know. It's to me, it needs to be changed. What are your thoughts?
I'm not an educator, so it's tough for me to say about the curriculum that is taught in school. Certainly did engage me. That being said, the business that I am in now, through some of my clients, through Cascade, one of my clients is called Click2. And Click2 is a platform for enrichment providers, like STEM products or karate or cooking, to teach their offerings online. It's obviously as a result of the pandemic, more people are learning online. In fact, we have a webinar tomorrow on live online learning and the future of it.
Okay.
So while I don't necessarily know because it's not my background, how you change what goes on from 9 to 3 inside a school building. There are so many opportunities after school now, and because of the advent of online learning. And when I say online learning, I mean live online learning, not asynchronous, not like I'm going to buy a course and maybe I'll take it on YouTube, but really I'm just checking to make sure, the score is what it is. But this is like join a cohort. It's called cohort-based learning. And
with interaction, right? Engaging,
with interaction and
not
with
30 people that you can't ask the questions you want to, and also you can talk amongst, or
with
people
other
in
people.
chat.
I'm taking a course, and I'm loving it. It's a 4-week course from 6 to 8 on Monday nights, and it's taught by a company called Be the Stage, and it's called the Relationship Flywheel, and it's basically about running a good show. But I've got people that I'm taking it with. There's probably 20 people in the course, and I'm getting to know them, and we're supporting each other, and it's all live. I mean, there is some work that you have to do on your own, and then there's office hours. But I mean, the point of this is that I don't know if we can change what goes on in schools, but as parents or as adult learners, if we want to call ourselves adults, we can take courses. And finally, you and me, who couldn't give a shit what was just taught in school, can learn about those things that we want, that we never got to learn, and probably new things as well. I started after probably 6 years off, except for a drunk 18 holes with my buddies. I started taking golf again, and it's been an amazing experience. I got a golf coach down here. That obviously is in person, but there's just so many opportunities online as well.
Soon it's going to be online, right? VR, the golf, they got that already. It's almost set up. Speaking of cooking, I think I could put that in the top classes of importance when I was taking an elective. I mean, it's important to learn how to cook. It's right. How important? Like, you don't have to be a world class chef, but to learn how to cook. Like, I hate baking,
Yeah.
but cooking, I love to cook.
It's so funny you say that.
Big difference.
So I remember, I don't remember when I took the home ec course, but we definitely learned how to make omelets at one point. I remember my mom being so impressed that I could make an omelet, but my mom loves me and my dad loves me. So anything I do, they're going to be like, great. But last night I had Camila, our daughter, wanted eggs, and I don't think I've made eggs for her, but in the 7 years that she's been on this earth, but I made them last night, and I'm like, am I going to screw this up? Do I not have enough eggs? Is it sticking? And I thought back to that course. I'm like, I know how to do this. Wait a second. I do know how to do this. She said the eggs were good.
Yeah.
But you put enough ketchup on eggs anyway, it'll taste fine.
Now we got to start this conversation.
What?
I know someone who I won't name, but she lives with me.
Okay.
She puts ketchup on her steak. I was like, ketchup on eggs.
On her eggs?
No, she doesn't eat eggs.
Okay.
Yeah, weird. It's weird.
Ketchup on eggs. I don't know. Maybe somebody can correct me here. Is that a Jewish thing? I don't know.
I don't know what it is. It may or may not be.
But
your point about the topics that engage you. I still remember my favorite class I ever had. It was at my community college.
Yep.
I went to community school for 1 year before I went to UF, and it was an ethics class. And I remember a conversation. There was a question that they asked everyone, and it was small, chatting around. And the question was to the effect of, you're a train operator, and all of a sudden you find out there's something in danger. There's 2 tracks. One track with 10 people on it and one track with 2 people on it. Okay. And the track with 10 people on it, they weren't supposed to be on there. But the track with 2, it wasn't, normally they would have been fine. And they said, well, what would you do? Would you change it to only to go to the 2 people, or, let it go straight? And I was the only one in the class who said, keep it where it's at. You'll lose 10 lives instead of 2, but those 10 people weren't supposed to be there. The 2 people were, they weren't in the danger. So it's just like things you can think of, thought, and have conversation with, to me, is better than trying to just memorize stuff and spit it back. Because there's people who memorize stuff great, right? And they just don't understand anything. So trying to figure out a way to teach people topics, to me, is is very interesting and something that I love doing even today to have a conversation.
You wouldn't have been alone in that course. I would have rolled over the 10.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but it's you ever do like a focus group? Have you done a focus group? Do people
I
get
don't think
paid
I've
to
done a
sit?
focus group, but I'll tell you what, again, not to bring it back to my kid, but
Oh,
she loves what ifs.
yeah.
Loves. I mean, I have an app on my phone because I've run out of what ifs, because we used to do what ifs when we were drinking. Those are easy to come up with, right?
Yeah.
But now when I'm, relatively sober most of the time, right? I don't have it. So I have an app now, but she loves the what ifs. So we're always doing them.
My friend was over there today. Was talking about his daughter loves Would You Rather. Are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, exactly. So like the to me, the greatest one is that you always start with is, would you rather have golf clubs for legs or tennis rackets for arms?
Golf clubs for legs or tennis rackets for arms? Uh, Probably the golf clubs for legs because I can do so much more with my arms. Yeah.
I'm with you. I would go with golf clubs for legs, but you'd be surprised the amount of people. Obviously you're not running any longer with those.
You can
Let's see.
find a way.
Yeah. Would you rather um, spend a month in a Chipotle bathroom or spend a month with a monkey sitting on your head, hitting you like this the whole time?
Oh, probably the bathroom. I mean, you lost a month either way. At least you'll keep your sanity.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I've had some interesting experiences in Chipotle bathrooms.
I don't know if I've ever been in a Chipotle bathroom to begin with. So that's,
Really?
yeah, I don't know.
How long you been down in Florida for?
We actually never really eat. My wife loves Chipotle,
Yeah.
and we bring it in, but I don't really eat there often. But once in a
Okay.
while, we'll have takeout. Yeah.
Well, maybe what you do is go to the bathroom, make a ticket for it, and maybe you could sell
I
that
would,
ticket. I don't know if anybody wants to buy it, but you could commemorate that moment in your life of your first Chipotle bathroom
it's
experience.
something to commemorate. Um, I would love to have an outbreak monkey as a pet. I love those. Those are probably my favorite pets.
Yeah.
My favorite animals, the outbreak monk, the small ones. When I go to
Yeah.
the zoo, that's my favorite animal to see. Um,
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about some, Cascade.
Yeah.
Tell us what that is, because that's your latest venture. Flex Tutors you've been doing for a while,
Yeah.
and but Cascade is a newer venture for you.
Yeah. So when I sold my tutoring company, I obviously had to stay out of the business for 3 years. And I did. And when I sold my enrichment company, basically I sold the in-person portion to my good friend, one of my best friends, who I also can't stand, who's my CEO, who's the CEO now. But I retained the rights to doing the online portion of enrichment and tutoring. So I naturally set back up a tutoring company online. Um, and then, over the years, what I've done is learned how to put together a really quality list of PTA presidents, of principals. Um, and I have a list of 150,000, give or take, thought leaders and decision makers in the education space. So that was kind of the foundation of how I thought, okay, I can consult, and I can find companies in the education space who are going to need this list. Then what happened is I found a great writer, Jessica, I've worked with, now for a while, and I can send her something on Slack or WhatsApp or email, and she helps me flush it out in terms of writing. And then I thought, we're just going to send emails. And then I discovered, no, you need a whole team to help with that. We have somebody who does email deliverability, who makes sure the emails get into the inbox. We have somebody who automates those emails to get into our clients' CRMs so they can follow up. And then I have somebody who's not turning an actual dial, but is monitoring the amount of emails that we send each day for lead generation. You
Very.
start at 25, you get up to 50, you get up to 100. By the
I,
end, you're doing 1,000 a day.
I hate these. I hate getting reminded constantly about the meeting that's already on my calendar. Um, it's crazy. Hey, don't forget your webinar is 1 week from today.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
but I know it
hopefully what,
works and people need it, right?
hopefully what we're doing is providing, value to these thought leaders to say, hey, have you heard of this company that's doing financial literacy this way? Or here's a way of teaching reading. It's new. Try it. So we have a grassroots effort through email that way. We then have an air attack that we do where we help turn our CEOs that we work with into thought leaders in the space. We build webinars around them. We build shows around them. We publish blogs for them, so that they become somebody that people in the industry respect. And then I have a member of my team. Her name is Anna, and she works with these CEOs to be more thoughtful leaders. As the business grows, as the leads come in, and they do come in, how are we going to structure the business going forward? What do you want to do as a CEO that you do best? Because let's build around that so you don't have to do everything anymore. And we make sure that they become good leaders as well as successful leaders.
Man,
So that's Cascade.
I can't wait till I can delegate. It's going to be something, because having conversations like this on and off camera it's great to be able to not have to worry. Like, I spend way too much time doing social media posts, and I have a ton of leads that I need to sort of keep a touch on, but now more important things come and orders come in, and so it's important. That's a very important thing to when the CEO and the leaders have the opportunity, like, that they're doing the right thing and acting in the right way. So it's definitely a good service to offer.
Yeah, and look, and I have the value, or I have the benefit of being able to tell very true stories about getting my ass kicked by businesses 1 and 2, and losing money and being a bull in a china shop when I probably could have been a lot more agile, and selecting, I would say better, different business partners, and surrounding myself. I had somebody who stole a shitload of money from me.
Yeah, join the club.
I had to get through that. So I can talk to people about that. What I really love to do is to sell and to work with the CEOs, and I've been able to kind of find people who are passionate about Cascade, in the sense that I think for the first time I've got lanes for them to stay in. You do this, I'll do that. You got to do this, I'm going to do that, and it's really, it's working.
What It's such an important, the people you partner with or a first hire when you're starting is so important, because if you miss on it, that could be the difference between having a business or not,
Yeah.
and being able to be successful or not. And man, it's still a coin flip. You do everything in the world to make sure your background checks and have conversations, and then it's like difference between practice and getting in a game, right? You can be nailing home runs, and
Right.
Joe Boo gets a curveball and he can't hit it.
Joe Boo can't hit the curveball. So, I'm working with a coach, business coach, and, kind of really working hard on the idea that my past doesn't dictate my future, but it helps guide me to a better one. And when it comes to, for example, partners, I don't necessarily blame some of the things that happen between my partners. I take responsibility. I hope they do as well. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. But now I think I have a better idea of who I want to be partners with, who complements me very well. And that has been helpful. So I don't know if you miss the first time, if you can't course correct,
Yeah,
but you gotta learn from the experience.
it's hard. But you said your partner is a very close friend of yours that you hate. Like,
Yeah,
I
well,
think that's a good relationship. Like, not that you hate, but you butt heads on, but at the end of the day, can figure out what's best. Doesn't have to see eye to eye and everything, but sort of has to have a grander vision. that's in line.
Totally. And he compliments me very well in terms of he's the org finance guy. I'm the out front biz dev guy. You got to have both sides of that. As much as I love him, I can't stand him. Um,
Were you
uh,
friends beforehand?
no, we weren't. We were introduced by a mutual connection. And then when the shit hit the fan with my partners, when the shit hit the fan with the pandemic, we were there together. So we went through it. And we're still partnering up we now own a franchise together. The franchise is for Overtime Athletics in DC and Northern New Jersey, or New Jersey. I work with him doing the biz dev for my former company because nobody can do it better than me, especially at this point. And he just came down and visited me and my wife and my kid down here. I mean, we think of him like family, and like most of my family, you love them most of the time, but you also can't stand them some of the times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the. I want to ask you about being a business coach. Like I had this conversation the other day. Someone, let's just say me, for example, I need a business coach. I've had some people who I paid to consult, and both times I came away with a not so good feeling. Didn't cost a ton of money, but still, when you're starting off, it's
Yeah.
not great, right? So, how do you understand? Why should I hire this person as a business coach as opposed to someone else? And then how do you know when to? Because sometimes you just got to cut bait, right? Like you could have a session or two, and you'd be like, well, you know what? I don't think this is gonna work.
Yeah.
But you also have to give them time to make it work. So how do you figure that out when you're not a company that has just unlimited funds to be sort of trial and error with that?
Uh, uh, a guy I used to work with very closely. We're not as close now. We used to say, and he started businesses, we used to say, trust your gut, nitwit. And your gut is always right. So I think when you thinking through a coach, your gut has to tell you that you want to talk with this person, you want to open up to this person, and that they can relate to you. And I found out that my coach, Lisa, is the same sign as my wife, who I have a similar, yin and yang relationship with. Of course, we complement each other well. We love each other, but it ain't easy all the time. And I found that in my coach, she pushes me. She supports me, but she pushes me. And so, much like actual therapy that I used to have, this has kind of turned into a little bit of therapy. And the sessions that I go into and I'm like, I don't want to do this and I don't know what we're going to talk about. Those are the ones, man, where you are peeling back layers of the onion that you didn't even know potentially existed.
And the coach, I had a conversation with my sister. The coach is not consulting; they're not doing the work for you. They're putting you in a best position to do that work. So you almost have to have someone else who might be able to fine tune a business plan or have some marketing ideas or talk to you about sales tactics and stuff like that.
I think that's true, and I've got pages upon pages in back of me of things that we've talked about and written. And one thing I'm able to take lessons learned from her and move them over to some of our clients. And one thing that she always reminds me of is that you need to separate, and this is probably important for you, it's important for me. We are not our businesses. We are our own human beings, and our businesses are their own human beings. They will grow, they will nurture, they will fall, they will get back up, good days and bad days. But we, at the end of the day, have to be able to separate ourselves from our businesses so that we can have our own good days and bad days.
Yeah,
And
that's
she
tough.
reminds me of that.
Because right now I am Ticket Time Machine and Ticket Time Machine is me, but I do understand the need to separate.
Yeah.
You know, and then like if I have a bad day, not to bring that into Ticket Time, which is tough because it's 24/7, 365 this year. We got married on leap day, so sometimes 366.
Right.
The pandemic has affected you in such great ways, and I use that way great as not always positive, but
Yeah.
huge ways. You're in Mexico,
Yeah.
right? You're working in Mexico. Your family's in Mexico.
Yeah, we're here for now. My wife is in DC quite often, because that's where her work is. But one of the revelations I came to I don't know if you listened to Guy Raz's How I Broke That. How I Built That. Sorry, my show became How I Broke That. I'll explain that. How I Built That, right? And I always thought, like, this is great that this guy built or lady built $100 million business, but I wanted to hear what went wrong in the process. What relationship broke? How much money they lose? What house they have to sell? How much therapy they have to go through personally. And so I created this show called How I Broke That. And it's basically like, for successful entrepreneurs to come on and talk about the industries they've disrupted. Oh, and by the way, they got divorced. They had to take out a second mortgage. They had to, lose 50 pounds to stay alive. And so, I think that the pandemic has provided opportunities for people. And one of them for us was to experience living down here a bit. We've got ties down here. I don't think we'll be here forever, and we're not here all the time. But San Miguel is a colonial town in the middle of Mexico. It's got the best weather in the world, in my opinion. If you're somebody who wants like super cold or super hot, no. But basically every morning it's 40 degrees and every evening it's 80. And then the sun goes down and it gets down to about 65 pretty quickly.
Beautiful. I love
And
that.
we've been able to create very quickly a wonderful group of older people, like, our parents' age, aunts and uncles who have retired down here, who all they want to do is like drink fantastic wine and hang out with our daughter on their balconies. And then there's a lot of people our age who have kids who have decided that, hey, they're going to move down here and try and live life a little differently. And we all support each other and have a great time. So, this was part of my breakage and breaking and trying different things.
I'm not at the success level yet, but when I do, I'm going to come on that show. I've got
Sure.
some stories because it's early, but man, I've been through it. I've been through some stuff, and the crazy thing is, like, it's not even. There's so many people who have it worse, and so it's hard to. I don't talk about it a lot because I'm so happy and grateful and privileged to even have this opportunity that I have right now.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who don't have that. Who have great ideas and just they run out of money and man, they got to sell their house. I mean, I'm grateful that I've did I have a good plan, sort of. Working on it.
Yeah, totally.
So eventually but that's important to figure out, like, and not like, oh, Elon Musk tell us how he failed 10 companies, right? I mean, look, that's important too, to an extent. But stories that people can relate to, which is why it's one of the things I do on the Wolff Den. I've had people who everyone knows or most people know, but it's just sometimes it's just hard to relate to that, right? You got to find someone who you can relate to. And that's a lot of the stuff that we do in the same here with the mental health is, I can relate to the person, next door to me or who just had a moment where they were in bad shape and they needed to get out of it. So it's, those are great stories. I got to listen. I have a trouble concentrating on what I need to do with stuff in the background, which is why I don't watch shows unless I'm watching it. So I don't listen to it as much stuff as I would like to. I'd love to start to listen to a little bit more podcasts, and I definitely need to do that.
Yeah. Have you listened to How I Built That on NPR?
I don't think I have yet.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I'll tell you, my favorite episode was the JetBlue guy.
JetBlue.
Actually, two of my favorite episodes are the JetBlue guy and the Southwest Airlines guy.
Man, I actually have it to reach out to both of those companies today. No joke. I think commemorative boarding passes. We have some cool stuff that we're working on with that. I just got to get to the right person.
Well, if I learned anything last night in my relationship flywheel class, maybe you might want to listen to both of those episodes, and then you can include that in your reach out to them.
Show me you know me, Sam McKenna. You know Sam McKenna? Show me you know me, Sam Sales. It's always good. I always ask that, like, what episode would you suggest that I start with? Like when you're asking about, because that's important. I have 170 of these things.
Yeah.
Right? If someone has 40 of them, I don't want to start from the beginning. Like, tell me what you think might get me to want to go back and watch 3 or 4. So give me an episode if you were to tell people, your show about how you broke it. What episode would you recommend they start with?
Given what we have talked about, I would do, first of all, full disclosure, my friend, I'm like 5 or 6 shows into this thing. So you're
That's
all
two
over
more
it.
than 90. From what I've learned, that's 2 more episodes than 90% of the people.
Yeah. Then I would definitely recommend show number, the one in January, um, which was with my coach, Lisa and Ling on flow. And I think you'd really like it. I think entrepreneurially, you'd get so much out of it. And she's fantastic. And then if you're also talking about how I built that. Yeah. I'm getting my show mixed up with Guy Raz, and I shouldn't.
JetBlue and
But
Southwest.
yeah, because those are interesting ones. The airline industry is so interesting. There's so much failure there.
Yeah.
But the JetBlue guy is like a devout Mormon, and has a cool story. And the Southwest guy was like a crazy Texas lawyer drinking bourbon, who built an airline. So kind of polar opposites, and you can make it either way, depending on execution.
Who's
But
your who's your bucket list guest? Do you have one that you said I'd love to have this person on, and it would be amazing if I can get them?
absolutely Matt McConaughey.
McConaughey.
For sure. 1,000,000%.
Do you understand why Salesforce paid that much money to have him do? It's a great commercial. Did you see his
Yeah,
Super Bowl commercial?
totally. Yeah.
Why is that a Salesforce Super Bowl commercial? It makes no sense to me, but it's a great commercial.
Yeah. It made sense to somebody, and it made
Yeah,
sense to him because he made a lot of friggin' money
yeah.
probably. The reason, when I read his book, Green Lights, it really changed my life. Cheesy enough to say,
Yeah, you
but it
told me
came at a
about that.
perfect time. And really cool mixture of his biography mixed with his failures, which mixed with his learnings. And I love the fact that this dude grew up a Redskins fan in Dallas. And so we've got that connection there. And I just think he's super cool. I mean, my wife would say he's my man crush, whatever that means. But he's just so cool.
Did
He's
we
just
talk about the college commencement speech that he did with like the 12 rules, or is that part of the book? Have you seen that? I'll send it to you if you
yeah,
have it.
send it to me.
It's unbelievable. What a great speech it was. One of the better ones I've ever seen. Probably going to roll into my final questions the way we let all of our guests get off. And if you've get out of the Wolff Den, if you've watched any of my episodes full length, which you might not have because they're long, and we're going to get these chopped up and throw some nuggets. If you could choose one person in the world to spend a day with, they have to be alive and you can't be related to them. Is McConaughey the person, or are you picking someone else?
I think it's him, man. I think
Yeah.
we would, this is gonna, I mean, it sounds very romantic what I'm about to say, but I think we'd wake up and, have some coffee and maybe work out and, talk business and life, and then play some golf maybe, and then have a late lunch, and then, just drink good bourbon or scotch or tequila or mezcal or whatever it was, and then watch the sun go down.
Did
That
you?
seems like a perfect day.
I'm in. Let's do it. Did you see his movie? That was it, The Gentleman, about the marijuana? I might have told you this about the marijuana. He's a marijuana guy.
I
Really
haven't.
good movie. I think it's called. I'm going to send you all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're watching a movie with Matt McConaughey and it's his movie, what are you watching? Any movie that he's been in?
I think you probably go old school, Dazed and Confused,
He's confused.
and maybe make yourself a little dazed and confused in the process, and just sit
Yeah,
back and relax.
it's funny. I had Pam Gazel on, who wrote a book, "Don't Bring Your Vibrator to Rehab," about her rehab stint. She was addicted to marijuana,
Yeah.
and a great book for anyone. But I've never smoked anything in my life, cigarette or marijuana. Is that crazy? I don't
That's
meet a lot of those
crazy.
people.
Anyways, I took care of both you and me
Yeah.
in one lifetime.
No, that's okay. And
I
it's
got you,
going to be
brother.
legal soon. Is it legal in Mexico?
They don't concern themselves with these things.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
all
They
good.
used to not concern themselves about these things depending where you are and who you are in the U.S. So
It's a US thing, man. Shit like that is, I hate to sound like an expat, but it's just the rest of the world doesn't care about that stuff. Just try and do it in moderation or do it in the privacy of your own home.
but I still think the U.S. is there's no place I would rather live long term. Short term, there's plenty of places I can go to. But if I got to live somewhere 5, 10, 15 years, there's no place in the world, and I've been to a lot of places that I'm picking. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly grateful to be an American. I'm super proud of Washington D.C., my home. But just like we know that people outgrow businesses or vice versa, I feel like I kind of outgrew, at least for the time, DC,
Yeah,
and it was my time to try something different for a little while. Yeah, DC is home. Our house is there. Our family's there, and America is a special place for sure.
but also you when you have the ability to go back and forth, it helps rather than if I'm like, hey, I'm here, I can go back once a year, right?
Right.
It's like the foreign basketball players. They'll tell you the stories how it's brutal. I don't care that you're paying me to play basketball. I'm living here. I can't, back in the day, it was hard to talk to
Yeah.
people. Now it's a little bit easier.
There's a buddy of mine, his name is Isaac Aronson, smart guy, very nice in the education industry. And when I told him, hey, we were going to spend some time down here, he's like, that's great, man. But, my family left Russia when we were 5 and we were never able to go back. So, it's a little bit different. I'm like, true.
Yeah.
So us living down here is nothing like, our families that immigrated, out of the eastern part of Europe. We're back and forth all the time. Our home is in DC. Our family's there,
It's a great experience for your kids, for you, for your business.
yeah.
It's just, if you can do it, I think it's great. Well,
Feel
look,
free to come down.
website information all down at the bottom, cascadego dot, and it should be com. Oh, it
It's
is.
actually co.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't.
You got it right.
I did the first mistake. CascadeGo.co, flextutors.org, tutors with a T, joshchernikoff.com if you need a business coach, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in the education space, get in touch with Josh. It's been great here. I look forward
Thank
to
you.
chatting more
Yeah,
and
man.
getting my business to the success level where I can get on an episode of how I broke that.
Well, if there is absolutely anything I can do to help take a time machine, I told you when we talked, I love the idea. I have special moments that have taken place um, in my life at games and love the flux capacitor.
we're
Love.
we're getting there. I feel it, and it's soon. So
That's important. That means your gut is telling you it's right. So
yeah,
keep at
yeah,
it.
appreciate that. All right, we'll talk to you later. Tune in Thursday for another episode of the Wolff Den, and have a great night.
Thanks for having me.